Hello my fiery friends, the Infernoman here with the Midweek Magic event, and today looks like we're playing, oh yes, Historic Artisan. Honestly, this is the best one out of all of them. Don't get me wrong, I love the Pauper one, but Artisan, whoo-hoo, I have plenty of ideas to work with, but what should we play today? Well, actually, let's go ahead, hit start, and jump in, and now I'll show you what I recommend you play for this event. So for this week, we have chosen a Goblin Combo deck, or as I kind of call it right here, Gobbo Combo. But basically, the deck is trying to have a 3-piece combo attack to drain out our opponent and win the game. To start, we have Sling Gang Lieutenant. For 4 mana, this 1/1 Goblin allows us to create 2 red Goblin creature tokens, and we can sacrifice a Goblin of any kind to then drain out our opponent by having him lose 1 life and we gain 1 life. Thankfully, this is a free effect. All we just need is a ton of Goblins on the field. Or we just need one specific one, which is Putrid Goblin. Putrid Goblin has Persist. When this creature dies, if it has no -1/-1 counter on it, return it to the battlefield with that -1/-1 counter on it. And we have Grumgully the Generous. For 3 mana, this 3/3 legendary Goblin Shaman allows us to bring in a non-human creature onto the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. Obviously, since we're running a whole Goblin deck, that means each Goblin that comes into the battlefield will then have an extra counter on it to pump it up. But we don't really care about the pump per se. Here's what we want. We want to basically sacrifice Putrid Goblin to Sling Gang Lieutenant, and then this means it'll recur it. How? Because with this and Grumgully the Generous out, we drain out our opponent. The Persist trigger goes back onto the stack and then brings out Putrid Goblin onto the battlefield. However, that counter doesn't exist because it is canceled out by Grumgully's effect. So in other words, we can then infinitely loop ourselves to then hit our opponent and get to victory. That's basically the whole deck's purpose. But in order for us to get there, we need some ways of pulling out the combo pieces. So we have, thanks to Alchemy, I can't believe I'm saying that, sorry guys, but this actually really does help us out. Artillery Enthusiast allows us to then discard a card, and if we do, we seek a card with a mana value equal to that card's mana value. So in other words, if we say get Goblin Ringleader, but we don't have the time to cast it on turn 1, we can then discard it, and then that'll yank out for us instantly our Sling Gang Lieutenant. Notice that again, we only have 1 copy of that Ringleader because we want to try to pull out the Lieutenant. And then as far as other cards we could try to seek to get our combo pieces, we have cards of Goblin Matron and Gem Palm Incinerator. But even if we don't use the Enthusiast, these cards are actually extremely well on their own. Gem Palm, of course, allows us to cycle, so we can then pull it out, hit our opponent hopefully for a little extra damage, and then also try to draw into our combo piece. We also have 3 copies of Goblin Matron that, again, if you do cast them normally, allows us to just search for our deck anyway for those combo pieces. So this actually really does a good job of synergizing. Otherwise, in the 2-drop slot, going a little backwards here, we have Battlecry Goblin and Munitions Expert. These aren't really part of the combo plan. This is more of a backup plan B if we can't pull off the combo. Just helps us pump our goblins, do a little extra damage, and then create some more tokens that we can just use to either hurl at our opponent for the Lieutenant or hopefully just close out the game through damage. And then if we have to finish off the game through normal battles, we have Flame of Keld, which also can kind of work with our game plan if we have our hand empty. Discard your hand on the first turn. The second part of it draws us 2 cards, and again, if a red source you control would deal damage to a permanent this player this turn, on the 3rd turn it allows us to do 2 extra damage to them. So most of our goblins, with the exception of our combo pieces, are all red, so this would help us just close out the game just much more faster. And finally, not much else to say except Goblin Banneret. It's a cute little card on its own, only 2 copies of, but again, it can pump itself up if we need to just to do a little extra damage. And of course, one thing I forgot to mention with Artillery Enthusiast, in case if we have to go through the battle of just damage with our opponent, at least if nothing else, it also has on it another ability, which is modified creatures we control have menace. What means with that is anything that has a counter on it or an aura or equipment allows us to then make that creature have menace. Grumgully does synergize with that, so that means +1/+1 counters that we add to any of our goblins makes it harder for them to block. As far as then your land base, 3 swamps, 8 mountains, some Ramanop runes for some last minute damage. Secluded Courtyard and Unclaimed Territory allows us to what makes this deck work completely in Artisan. And that's actually pretty nice because that means we don't have to waste any other resources trying to put in Forest to cast Grumgully. However, that does create a weakness for us, which is if we don't get any of these special lands out to cast our goblins, Grumgully is going to be sitting for a little while. But this hopefully shouldn't be too hard because our combo is actually pretty tight and most of our cards synergize extremely well with our game plan. How well, you're asking? Well, let's jump into some games, I'm just going to show you again, no commentary like we do for any of our midweek magics, just to show you how the deck is meant to be played. And again, if you do like this content, all I just ask is please make sure to give a like on this video and subscribe to the channel so you can continually see all of my deck techs, booster pack openings, and so much more. Again, guys, we're trying to hit that goal right now of trying to hit the 300, and then beyond that, who knows. Thank you again for watching, everyone. Enjoy this content, and I will see you at the end of the video. That's all I have for you today. Thanks again for watching, everyone. And just remember that no matter what you do play in the game of life, always be sure to burn bright. Later.